Today, we need to talk about a bird that lived in what was basically a permanent vacation. No predators, endless food, warm breezes, quiet forests, a life so safe that fear slowly became unnecessary, almost embarrassing. This is the story of the dodo, a bird so comfortable with its surroundings that it forgot how to run, so relaxed that it forgot how to fly, and so trusting that it walked straight up to the one species that would end everything. If you enjoy calm science mixed with slightly unsettling realizations, you can like and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this. No pressure, the dodo wouldn't pressure you either. Now grab a drink, maybe some popcorn, and pay attention, because how does a species survive for thousands of years and then disappear in less than a century? Why didn't the dodo fight back? Was it really stupid, or just perfectly adapted to a world that suddenly stopped existing? And here's the uncomfortable question. If you were dropped into a paradise with no threats, how long would it take before you stopped looking over your shoulder? Because the dodo didn't fail nature, nature changed the rules. Flying is expensive. It burns energy, it requires muscle, balance, constant practice. And on Mauritius, you didn't need it. So slowly, quietly, flight became optional, then unnecessary, then impossible. The dodo grew heavier, its wings shrank, its legs thickened. You didn't escape danger in paradise. You walked to lunch. Evolution didn't fail here, it optimized for comfort. If you live somewhere with no predators, wings start to feel like unused gym equipment. Impressive? Yes. Necessary? No. Over thousands of years, the dodo redirected its energy budget. Instead of fueling flight muscles, it invested in a sturdy body, strong legs, and a metabolism built for steady ground life. Why waste calories launching into the air when all the food is under your feet? This wasn't unusual. Other island birds followed the same path. Rails, cormorants, even parrots in similar conditions lost flight. The difference is timing. Most of those islands stayed isolated long enough for the strategy to keep working. Mauritius didn't. To you, the dodo would have looked almost relaxed. No sudden movements, no twitchy alertness. It walked, paused, pecked, and carried on. Flying wasn't just unnecessary, it was inefficient. And evolution has no patience for inefficiency. The cruel irony is that the moment flight would have mattered most, it was already gone. When danger finally arrived, the escape route had been quietly deleted generations earlier. You can't make this up. Forget the cartoons. The dodo wasn't clumsy chaos. It was a specialized feeder. Fruits, seeds, roots. Some plants may have even depended on it to spread seeds. The bird wasn't dumb. It was part of a quiet, balanced system. A system that had never met teeth sharper than a coconut shell. Walk through the forest floor of Mauritius and imagine food everywhere. Fallen fruit rotting gently in the heat. Seeds tucked inside tough shells. Roots exposed by rain. The dodo's large, hooked beak wasn't random. It was designed to grip, crush, and manipulate hard plant material. Not delicate, practical, like a nutcracker with legs. For a long time, scientists thought the dodo mainly ate soft fruit. Later studies of its skull and gizzard stones suggested something more interesting. The bird likely swallowed rocks to grind tough seeds internally, similar to modern pigeons. That means the dodo wasn't just eating the forest, it was processing it. There's even evidence that certain tree species evolved alongside the dodo. Large seeds that passed through its digestive system may have needed that journey to germinate properly. Remove the bird, and suddenly, the forest itself struggles. Extinction doesn't just erase animals, it unravels relationships. The dodo's feeding style also explains its calm behavior. It didn't need speed, it didn't need stealth. Food didn't run away, it waited. The island rewarded patience, not aggression. So, no, the dodo wasn't wandering around confused. It was doing exactly what evolution shaped it to do, maintaining an ecosystem that worked beautifully, right until the system met a species that didn't play by any of its rules. Then one day, ships appeared on the horizon. Humans stepped onto the beach, and to the dodo, they were just large, strange animals, walking upright, no threat signals, no warning signs. So the dodo did what it always did. It walked closer. Because why wouldn't you? From your point of view, This is the moment the island's rules quietly collapse. For thousands of years, Mauritius had been sealed off from the rest of the world. Nothing arrived here unless it had wings, drifted by accident, or survived an ocean crossing by pure luck. Evolution had written very strict assumptions into every living thing on the island, and none of those assumptions included humans. The ships themselves were an alien sight. Tall wooden walls rising from the water, canvas flapping in the wind, the smell of smoke, tar, iron, and unfamiliar animals mixing with salt air. To you, this would feel like an invasion. To the dodo, it was just something new, and new things, on Mauritius, had never been dangerous before. The bird had no inherited fear response for upright creatures with forward-facing eyes, no memory of spears, no understanding of hunger-driven intelligence. When sailors stepped onto shore, the dodo didn't scatter into the forest. It didn't sound alarms. It simply watched, curious, calm, maybe mildly annoyed at the noise. Early written accounts described dodos as shockingly tame. Some sailors claimed they could walk right up to them. Others said the birds followed them around campsites, not because the dodo was slow, but because it had never learned avoidance. In its world, approaching unfamiliar animals had never resulted in pain. And here's the part that's often misunderstood. The first humans didn't arrive with extinction in mind. They weren't scientists cataloging species. They weren't villains twirling mustaches. They were sailors on long voyages, exhausted, malnourished, desperate for fresh meat. And suddenly, dinner walked toward them. No chase, no weapons required, no skill. The dodo didn't run. It didn't fight. It didn't understand that this interaction had stakes. For humans, it was a convenient food source. For the dodo, it was just another encounter in a lifetime of harmless ones. What makes this moment tragic isn't brutality, it's misalignment. The dodo wasn't failing to survive, it was executing the exact behavior that had worked flawlessly for thousands of years. Evolution had taught it that calm curiosity was the correct response. And evolution, at that moment, was catastrophically wrong. You can almost feel the quiet confusion of it. A bird stepping closer, a human realizing how easy this is going to be. No drama, no resistance, just a mismatch of expectations. And the humans didn't come alone. With them arrived rats hiding in cargo holds, pigs released intentionally, dogs, cats, monkeys. Every one of them carried instincts forged in predator-rich environments. Suddenly, the forest floor wasn't safe. Eggs disappeared overnight, nests were destroyed, food sources were competed away. The dodo didn't just face hunters, it faced ecological sabotage. What scientists later realized is that even if humans had never eaten a single dodo, the outcome may have been the same. The bird reproduced slowly. It nested on the ground. It had no defense against animals that specialized in stealing eggs. The system collapsed from multiple angles at once. This is why extinction didn't look like a dramatic massacre. It looked like fewer chicks each year, fewer adults wandering the forest, longer silences between sightings. A species fading out while life on the island grew louder and more chaotic. The first humans didn't arrive to destroy paradise, but paradise had no defense against them. And the dodo, perfectly adapted to peace, had no way to recognize that peace had just ended. You can't make this up. From first contact to extinction, less than a century passed. Thousands of years of successful evolution erased in a human lifetime. No dramatic collapse, no warning alarms, just fewer birds each year. Then none. Extinction doesn't always roar. Sometimes it fades quietly. If you were standing on Mauritius during those decades, you probably wouldn't notice anything was wrong. The forests were still green. The fruit still fell. Birds still called from the canopy. The disappearance didn't arrive as a disaster, it arrived as a statistic no one was counting. 1 year, fewer nests hatched. The next, you saw fewer dodos along the forest paths. Not zero, just less. And that's the most dangerous number in nature, because less doesn't trigger panic. It triggers indifference. Early sailors came and went. Settlements grew slowly. Rats multiplied quickly, pigs rooted through nesting sites, monkeys learned where eggs were easiest to steal. Each small pressure didn't seem fatal on its own. Together, they were devastating. The dodo's reproduction rate couldn't keep up. One egg at a time, ground nesting, no backup plan. What makes this extinction unsettling is how little resistance it encountered. No last stand, no adaptation phase, no sudden mutation that saved the species. Evolution moves slowly, human impact does not. The dodo didn't fail to evolve, it simply ran out of time. By the time people realized the bird was becoming rare, it was already functionally extinct. Too few individuals, too scattered, too much damage already done. The system had crossed a threshold, quietly, without ceremony. And then the records stop. The sightings end. The forests continue without one of their most important gardeners. The dodo becomes a memory before anyone fully understands what they've lost. This is the uncomfortable lesson. Extinction doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like normal life, minus one familiar presence you assumed would always be there. Until one day, it isn't. The dodo wasn't dumb. It was perfectly designed for a world that no longer existed. Intelligence isn't about problem solving alone. It's about predicting danger, and the dodo had never needed to imagine one. For centuries, humans turned the dodo into a punchline, a symbol of failure, of evolutionary incompetence. But that story says more about us than it does about the bird. In its natural environment on Mauritius, the dodo was doing exactly what it was built to do. It survived. For a very long time. Think about it. The bird found food efficiently. It conserved energy. It raised offspring in a stable system. Those are not the traits of a stupid animal. They're the traits of a successful one. The problem wasn't intelligence, it was relevance. The dodo's skills were suddenly obsolete. We often confuse intelligence with flexibility, but flexibility only matters when the environment changes, and on Mauritius, nothing had changed in thousands of years. There was no evolutionary pressure to prepare for the impossible, no need to imagine a threat that had never existed. Calling the dodo stupid is like blaming a smoke alarm for failing in a world without fire. It worked perfectly until the rules changed. The uncomfortable truth is that the dodo didn't misunderstand the world. The world changed faster than biology ever could. And that's not stupidity, that's timing. The dodo story isn't about failure, it's about mismatch. A species evolved for peace, meeting a species evolved for disruption. And if you listen closely, this isn't ancient history, it's a pattern, one that keeps repeating just with different names. When you zoom out, the dodo becomes less of an oddity and more of a warning label. On Mauritius, the bird didn't disappear because it was weak. It vanished because its world changed faster than biology can respond. And that exact scenario keeps playing out on islands, in forests, in oceans. We used to believe extinctions were slow, dramatic events. Volcanoes, asteroids, ice ages. What we've learned instead is that disruption doesn't need spectacle. Sometimes it just needs shipping routes, invasive species, and a little indifference. You can see echoes of the dodo everywhere. Animals perfectly adapted to narrow environments, coral reefs facing warming waters, amphibians exposed to new pathogens. Species that evolved stability suddenly forced into chaos. The names change, the mechanism doesn't. The dodo wasn't a mistake. It was a signal we didn't know how to read yet. A quiet demonstration of how fragile success can be when conditions shift. And here's the unsettling part. The dodo never saw extinction coming. Neither do most species until it's already unavoidable. The question isn't whether nature adapts. It's whether it's given enough time to try. And history suggests it often isn't. This was the story of the good-natured paradise bird that sadly perished. What do you think of his story? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.